How you doing, Cody?
Good, man. How are you?
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, dude.
And
Thanks for having me.
this is Cody Vance, aka Preston Vance on AEW and Ring of Honor. So let's get into it. You grew up in Clare, Michigan?
Yep. Small town, middle of nowhere, dirt road. Neighbors were Amish, and I just
Mhm.
always had this dream that I wanted to be a pro wrestler, which is pretty out of the realm from anybody that I grew up with. It's kind of you grow up there, you live there forever, and I just knew at a very young age that's not what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Um, then went to Central Michigan University, got my college degree, and then my senior year I really looked into how to get into pro wrestling. um, and I mean, I had stacks of papers of like every wrestling school in the country, and like would research like where to go, how to get into it. And then I got in contact with Danny Cage of the Monster Factory. And then my last exam in college, I packed my car and moved to New Jersey. Had nowhere to live, lived out of my car for months. And then
Wow.
and then I at the time it was hard. Obviously I don't regret it because it all worked out. But yeah, I grew up small town, and I kind of just had this big dream that no one has there, and I just went for it.
So your neighbor was Amish, but you guys had electricity and everything,
Oh yeah,
apparently.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where I grew up, Claire's a very it's like a big time Amish community. There's Amish all over. When like I'll have like if people like not from there will like come visit, they're like they're so amazed that there's people that literally are like riding around in horse and buggies. Uh, it was an awesome place to grow up. I love it. I love small town stuff. I'll never move back there. For one, it's too cold. I live in Florida now on the beach, so I think this is where I'll stay. This definitely fits me a little better.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I'm in New Orleans. It's much warmer than Boston.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so you liked growing up there. Did you go to high school there too?
Yep, went to high school there, was there, and then I went to Central Michigan, which is only 15 minutes from where I grew up. So I mean, I was there the first, 22 years of my life in that area
Oh,
at
okay.
least. And then, but I knew I wanted to do pro wrestling. When I was 8 years old, I wrote an essay. That I want to be a pro wrestler when I grow up, and my mom still has that essay in her house, so it's pretty cool.
That's really cool. Yeah. That so you do sports or anything in
Yep,
high school and college?
yep. I did baseball and hockey all through high school, and then hockey was definitely my favorite.
Mm.
I just knew I wasn't going to go to the NHL as much as I would have loved to. I was always kind of the goon on the team, and for people who don't know what the goon is, you're pretty much there to hit people. Um,
Yep.
but I loved hockey. Hockey was my favorite sport. I didn't do amateur wrestling. I kind of regret it because I think it would have helped a lot with my career, and it would have transitioned over because I see some of those guys who do amateur wrestling and they transition over to pro wrestling very, very good. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, hockey was definitely my first love.
Yeah, I bet hockey's big there. Hockey's big in Boston
Oh
too.
yeah, huge, huge
Yeah. So that's cool. What position did you play in
defense,
hockey? Defense.
defense. Yeah,
Yeah. I remember my dad telling me a story about the Bruins. Some guy like ran into the stands and took a guy's shoe and beat him over the head with
yeah.
it.
Dude, hockey players
Like
are nuts, man.
it was
They're
crazy.
nuts.
And they're all like missing teeth and
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like its own culture, kind of like how pro wrestling is. It's like the same, like it's like a brotherhood. Like I loved
Yeah.
hockey, man.
Yeah, I'm more into basketball. Like my favorite is the Celtics, but
Yeah.
I will say playoff hockey, there's nothing like
Nothing
it.
like it, man. Nothing like it. That's
Yeah.
what I always say. I'm not huge into basketball. I loved the 0405 Pistons, like the Bad Boys 2.0. I was really into it then. And then we don't have much of a team anymore. So yeah, my main is the hockey, and then I love watching football. I love the Lions. I love University of Michigan, but they're doing good in the March Madness tournament right now. So
Mhm.
and so is Michigan State. So I'm excited for that as well.
Yeah, Detroit Lions played awesome this year.
They did, and they played good the year before, but they just can't
Yeah.
make it to the finish line, man.
I mean, make a few moves, they might be able to.
I'm hoping. I'm really hoping.
Yeah. But so you got trained in the Monster Factory, right?
Yep, I got trained. So Danny Cage is the owner, and then I got
Hmm.
trained very hands-on by Damian Priest,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and QT Marshall. And then you'd have guys like Blue Meanie was always in there, which he played a very big role. But the two biggest roles are definitely QT and Damien for sure. So when I went there, me and QT hit it off like immediately, like became friends, and I was like kind of like I believed everything he was telling me. Like he believed in me more than I believed in myself, and that's kind of
Yeah.
always how he's been. And same with Damien. And then when I moved to New Jersey, QT had gotten neck surgery shortly after, so he was gone. So now I'm like, man, I kind of moved here to get trained by him because like we had such good chemistry. And then I meet Damien, and he's a very very intimidating person. But me and
Yeah.
him, once again, like we clicked instantly, and I'll never forget he told me because he's probably I mean, he's a little bit older than me, almost probably 10 years. And he at that point he was like, "Hey man, I think I'm too old to make it. My goal is to just play a part in your story, and like I want you to make it." And now he's killing it, and it couldn't happen to a better person. He's awesome. So I owe a lot to. Definitely the two biggest influences in my career are QT and Damien. Those are my main trainers, and then in 2017, I tore my ACL and I moved home for 9 months, got the surgery there. And at that point, QT had opened this school in Atlanta called the Power Factory. So then when I was almost cleared, QT had contacted me and was like, you can, when you get back on your feet, you can move down here and live with me and my wife till like, you find a place to live and stuff. And so, like, dude, right from the beginning, he's always really has had my best interest. And like I said, believed in me more than I believed in myself. At times it really mattered. So yeah, I definitely owe the majority of my career to QT.
Yeah, you don't on like mainstream TV, you don't hear much about him, but like when you listen to interviews and stuff, he's like a savant in wrestling.
Oh yeah,
Like,
dude, his wrestling mind is literally unmatched. It's like he's a like wrestling genius, and
yeah,
he's awesome. Like he's one of my best friends. But yeah, he's definitely has played the biggest role in my wrestling career.
yeah. And then Damian Priest, I mean, look at him now.
Oh, dude, he's killing it, and so glad to see because, like I said, couldn't happen to a better person. He had quite the journey to get where he got. Like I think he was doing the indies for like almost 15 years and then he started doing stuff with Ring of Honor, and then from there he really kind of blew up. So it was like really awesome to see.
Yeah, I've watched his documentary, his body transformation
Oh, it's
from when he
insane.
it's wild.
Yeah, it's really insane. And if you saw, because even before I met him, he was even bigger, like heavier.
Yeah.
So if you see him from that point to now, it's like really really remarkable.
Yeah, you said he's intimidating. It's pretty, I mean, when he's up against Drew McIntyre and he's
Yeah,
intimidating,
yeah.
that's pretty impressive because Drew McIntyre is a big dude.
Yeah, and he just has this like aura about him. He's got like the super deep voice, and he's just
Yep.
like I was intimidated as hell when early 20s, just started, knew really nothing about actual like pro wrestling outside just being a
Yeah.
fan, and now I'm like with this guy every day. And but like I said, we became friends almost instantly, and hung out a bunch outside of like training. So like I said, couldn't happen to a better dude. I'm super happy for him, very proud of him.
Yeah, he's got that swagger.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So you debuted in 2015
Yep. Yep, I
and you
think
did independence and stuff?
Yep, I think it was September 2015 was my first match, and at this point I have only been training for maybe 2 or 3 months, so it's
Oh,
pretty
wow.
it's pretty quick to have a match like on an actual show. So I didn't have gear or anything, so I remember they were looking for an opponent for one of these guys, like just to they basically wanted me to beat someone real quick, like a squash match, and I didn't have any gear, I had nothing. So QT pitched like, "Hey, let's give Vance a match and just have him go out there and beat someone up." And so I was borrowing I had nothing of my own. I borrowed someone's trunk, someone's boots, someone's knee pads, and they just kind of threw it all together, sent me out there. I didn't even have an entrance song. So being from Michigan, as a joke, they made my entrance song "Cowboy" by Kid Rock. and
Oh,
then it was
really?
and then it was kind of stuck with me for the first couple years on the indies. So when I first started, I did Monster Factory indies, majority the majority just there, and then kind of bounced around the Northeast a lot, and then in 2019, I really expanded and was going to like California a bunch and a bunch of the Southeast one and still going back to the Northeast and doing indies. So I did the indies pretty hard for like 5 years. Um,
Hmm.
which when you're doing it, it feels like a eternity.
Yeah.
But when you look at other people's careers, I'm like very thankful and blessed that like I got signed rather quickly, because there's
Yeah.
people who do them, do the indies. Damien's a great example. QT's a great example. They did it for 10 plus years on the indies trying to make it.
Yep.
So, but when you're in that position, it feels like an eternity, but it's so fun because you just have this like this dream of making it and you make awesome friends along the way. So like I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, the indies are obviously hard, but I get it's worth it. You made it to AEW and Ring of
Yeah.
Honor. So, how did you, was it QT Marshall that you got connected with through AEW or was it
No, so
elsewhere?
so it was, I mean, kind of. At that point I was training down in Atlanta. Um, and at this point I was coming off of my second ACL surgery. So I tore my ACL in 2017. I had a tryout with NXT and then tore my ACL like 2 weeks before the tryout. So I was very
Oh, wow.
bummed. And then in 2019, I had another tryout with NXT and tore my other ACL 2 weeks before. So I was like,
Mm.
what the hell is going on? And then but I didn't go home for the second ACL surgery. I got it done in Atlanta so I could still be around the school and like train with QT and just
Yeah.
like pick his brain and just be around it. So I stayed there, and then at this point, I heard rumblings of this company AEW starting. And at this point, Cody and Brandy would come in the school every now and then and kind of train around. So me and Cody, we started talking and hit it off, and we would hang out, outside the school and stuff. And he asked QT like, how come Vance never asked me about like, you know, AEW or getting a job with AEW. And he was like, Vance, that's just not him. Like, he doesn't care. He's not your friend because of who you are. Like, he doesn't care if
Yeah.
you were a janitor. Like, he likes you as a person. Um, and then when the pandemic hit, they did the first taping in Jacksonville, and I had a dark match against Darby Allin. And then it went very well. And then after that week, I mean, the world was shut down. And then
Yeah.
they filmed 6 weeks of TV at QT school in Atlanta. And then Brodie was like had just kind of started at AEW few months prior, and I was always a huge Luke Harper fan, a huge Wyatt family fan, and so he walks in and talk about another intimidating guy. Holy shit.
Yeah.
He's like 6'7", like, and he's just big beard, like very intimidating. So he walked in, I was like, oh God. And then me and him started talking, and we talked about he's a big hockey fan. He played in men's leagues like while he was like still wrestling, and then we were talking about like what's your favorite drink, and we both love Tito's, and he told me a bunch about his family, and we talked for probably about 2 hours, just me and him in the school. And then after like the next day or something, he went up to QT and Cody and was like, does he have like a deal with WWE coming up, or like what's going on? And they're like, no. And then so Brodie was pitched the idea. He's like, hey, I want Vance with me. I'll take him under my wing, backstage, on TV, everything. So my main credit I give to getting into AEW is pretty much 100% Brodie. Um,
That's awesome.
which a lot of people I'll like read like fake articles, and it'll be like, oh, Preston Vance is Brodie's nephew or they're related, and it's like I didn't know him at all till that day, and we just really
Yeah.
hit it off. Um, and he instantly, I mean, took me under his wing, and then I signed my contract with AEW, and it was like a per appearance thing, and I had torn my bicep. I mean, 3 days after I signed it, so I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, I let everybody down, especially Brodie, who put his stamp of approval on me not having to. So I was like in tears. I called him, I called Cody, I called QT. I was like, I fucked up. And then that week at TV, I'll never forget at Daly's place, I saw Brodie in the hall, and I was like, dude, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I really like messed this up. And then he gave me a hug, and he's like, you're fine. He goes, you're young, you're jacked, you're good looking, you'll be good. And so he told me that, and I was like, damn, he's right. Like, I will be fine. And then he gave me one of his ring jackets, which I thought was so
Oh,
cool.
right.
Like this
Yeah.
big, big, long white, and we had to get it tailored, because he's 6, 7, and I was like, this is the coolest thing. So he's like, hey, wear this. I still want you to come out on stage with me every week, but wear this to cover your bad arm. So I was like in a cast and brace and stuff. I said, okay, cool. So I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Now, mind you, we're filming in Jacksonville in the middle of the summer. So it's like 100 degrees. Now, this
Yeah.
jacket, it's like legit burlap. Like it's like a sack. So it's heavy. Uh, so I'm, you know, for all his matches, I'm sitting on stage, like whatever. And I mean, I am pouring sweat like every week out there. And I get to the back and Brodie, he's laughing. He goes, you like that jacket, huh? I'm like, yeah, I love it. And he goes, it's pretty hot. And I'm like, dude, it's 1,000 degrees wearing it, you know? And he goes, yeah, that's the rib. That's why I gave it to you. 'Cause he knows, he's like,
Yeah.
I know you'd be burning up. I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. But it was, but still have the jackets framed in my place. So that's like, one of the coolest pieces of, I mean, it is the coolest piece of wrestling memorabilia I have, because it truly is one of a kind. And it's like I said, I owe him my whole AEW career for sure. But he was like Damien, like very intimidating. And then when you get to know him, it's like, man, he's the epitome of how when they say like a laugh or smile can light up a room.
Yeah.
That was him. Like the BTE stuff we would do with him. He was
Oh,
always just cracking us up, dude. It was so we'd have to do so many takes because he'd be in the corner and we would be dying laughing, and his laugh is so loud and big and it's like infectious almost, you know. But yeah,
yeah.
he was the man, dude. Truly just one of a kind person, dude.
I had people that didn't even watch wrestling watching BTE
Oh
because it
yeah.
was just so funny.
Yeah, dude,
And
it was literally like I felt like we were doing like Saturday Night Live, you know? It was
yeah,
awesome. We had so much fun during that time span of coming up with BTE stuff, like us and like Hangman doing it with us. And
yeah.
oh man, dude, we had so much fun just like messing around and like being creative and having fun. Those were definitely some of the best days I've ever had in my wrestling career.
And you wouldn't, like you said, he's so big and intimidating. You
Yeah.
wouldn't think like this guy is hilarious and wicked. Like unfortunately, he passed away. If people don't know, but I remember right after that. Usually, there's some people that are like, "Oh, I had this bad experience,
Yep.
whatever." There was no one that said
Nobody.
anything bad.
Nobody, and I always touch on that. And every podcast or interview I do, they always say exactly what you said, and it's so true. Nobody ever had one thing bad to say about that guy, and that's so rare in this industry. Like no
Yeah,
one said anything bad. So I always really try to model myself after that, because like that says so much about him as a person. Where like he was the man, dude. He was, like I said, instantly as soon as we met, I was like, this guy's awesome. And he was just a good
yeah.
dude, you know? So yeah,
The
that's
coolest thing I heard about him was I think it was in an interview or something. Somebody's talking about it. It might have been Brian Danielson. Was because family means everything to me.
mhm.
Is that he would like fly home right after a
Oh
show
yeah.
to get to
Yeah.
his family,
Yeah.
not hang out or anything.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Because when we were filming in Jacksonville, because he lives over like Tampa area, kind of, or lived over
Yeah.
Tampa area, and he would drive home right after every taping, like immediately as soon as he was done. But then I was hearing stories from like, yeah, like Brian and other people who were in WWE with him, and they said he would sometimes, like if he couldn't get a flight, he would rent a car and drive like 8 9 hours so he could like see his family sooner, you know. And it shows because his family's awesome. Obviously I'm still very close with
Yeah.
them, with Amanda and Brodie and Nolan, the youngest. And uh yeah, you can tell like he had such a obviously huge impact on their lives. And yes, is I'm very thankful that I got to be a part of that, and like and know him for the short amount of time that I did.
Yeah, young Brody looks like he might be the next one. I see
Dude,
his training videos.
Dude, yeah, because he'll train with Natalia and TJ down in Florida. And dude, he's like, I don't know if just if I guess it's like in your blood, but yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, I'm watching stuff, I'm like, holy shit. And two, he just turned 13 in January, and every year a group of us, we do this thing called Brody Day where we all go to Disney, and it's like me, um Aaron Solo, Ricky Starks, Cody, Amanda, Brody, Nolan, like the whole family, you know. And dude, he's like he's gonna be tall. He definitely got his dad's genetics in
Yeah.
that. He's already, I'm like, it's like I just don't see him for a while, and then I'm like, dude, holy shit, you're like a legit teenager now. It's so weird. So
Yeah,
I'll always
he
just
has.
remember him as like this little kid after his dad had passed away.
Right. And he hasn't been on TV for a while. And when I saw that, I think it might have been on Natty's Twitter or something,
Yeah,
him training, I was like, yeah, he is getting up there.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Your connection with your relationship with him is so cool.
Yeah, he's doing good. He's doing great, man. But it's funny when I first met him, because him and Amanda were backstage, and this was like around that time when John wasn't there, and I saw him. I wasn't in like my gear or anything, and I just hello, walk by him, and then when I had a match that night, I had like the 10 mask on and all that stuff, and then he goes, "Mom, that's 10," and so then at that point, because on TV he sees me kind of as like his dad's right hand man, or his
Yep.
Brody would always call me his white knight. So I think that kind of translated when you're that young, you kind of think like it's almost like that's true.
That's
So
real
he just
life. Yep.
yeah, so he really gravitated towards me, um, and which I love. I love that he kind of chose me to be there in that time of like the hardest time of his life.
Yeah.
Um, and he's a tough kid, man. But I loved like after I passed, he would FaceTime me probably like sometimes like 10 times a day because he just wanted someone to talk to. And it's kind of like big brother little brother thing, and
Yeah.
I'm never very serious with anything, so I think it kind of got his mind off of that, and he could just like be a
Yep.
kid around me, and stuff like that. And then as months went on and stuff, I would hear from him less and less, which I love because that means he was doing better you know
Yep.
but yeah, he's when all that happened, he just wanted to be around me and talk to me, and like I was very okay with that.
That's really cool. Good for you for doing that. That's amazing. So back to you. So you got brought into the Dark Order by Brodie. I know he was supposed to debut in Syracuse or something like that. It's in New
um
York,
yeah, he I want to say it was Rochester 'cause that's where he's from.
Rochester.
Yeah,
That's what it
yeah.
is. And then obviously the pandemic happened.
uh
And one thing I will say during the pandemic, I'll never forget Austin Gunn in the front row
oh we
screaming and
dude
stuff.
we still talk about that. He was the number one fan of everybody.
Yeah,
He brought the energy because that time it was so fun, the pandemic, because we were all forced to, like, it was legit like a family.
yeah,
What did suck was not having fans, because that's half of the show, if not more, is the
yeah,
energy the fans bring. So there was times, it would be hard, and he would just be getting everyone going, and I was like, all right, this is, and it's just comical. And he's
yeah.
he's he's one of my best friends, and we live in the same condo building and everything, and he's yeah, that's him, man. That is him 24/7.
Yeah. When I heard that you guys did like back to back to back episodes
Oh
taping,
yeah,
I'm like, how did he last that long
yeah.
doing that?
I remember his voice he'd be like so hoarse. But yeah, there's
Yeah,
times I remember there was times where we'd be wrestling like 2 in the morning, and the pandemic lasted a while, so it'd be like January, whatever, and it doesn't get super cold in Florida, but at nights it does. So I never
yeah,
forget the one time I was wrestling. I think it was me and someone in Dark Order versus Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, and it was 38 degrees when we went out there. And I was like, oh,
well,
and the first thing Luchasaurus did was he gave me a chop, and I was like, oh, I just felt like my soul leave my body. It was so cold.
yeah, definitely. So you went from the Dark Order to LFI,
Yep.
and you worked with Roosh and what's his, I forget
Tralistico.
what it, Lisico. I
Yep.
never can pronounce that right.
Yeah, yeah.
But how is that working with them? I know Roosh is intense.
I loved it, man. I loved it. So that happened because at this point, Tony was kind of teetering with the idea, like, "Hey, I think we take you out of the mask," and I'm like, "Man, this would be a great time for me to leave and kind of, but leave with a statement, like throwing the mask at Brody's feet and stuff like that."
Yeah.
And I was backstage, and I guess Andrade went to Tony and was like, "I want Preston in LFI." So that was an Andrade call, actually. This was before
Oh yeah,
Ruth.
Andrade too.
I don't
Yeah.
even know if Roosh was really there yet. And then but then it ended up being me and Roosh, and once again, me and him, we clicked instantly, which is funny because his English is definitely getting better, and it's pretty good now. But we instantly clicked, and working with him was awesome. He's very intense, and that really
Yeah,
brought so it forced to bring that out in me. So we had like, you know, like I still think my favorite match to this day was me and him versus Mox and Claudio, the Texas Tornado match where we're all bleeding
yeah,
and stuff. And
yeah,
that's so working alongside him, like you had to match his intensity, like it forced
yep,
you to. So I mean that helps so much. And then working with his brother, which I love working with those guys. I loved. We went to Mexico and filmed like those videos and vignettes, and he's like a big perfectionist because it was like we wanted it to look like a movie, which it did, you know. And we'd always
yep,
joke and be like, "Oh, this is like cinema." And his brother now, his English is pretty little, so that was also a challenge when I would tag with him. It was like we couldn't really communicate because
yeah,
you know, I don't know Spanish and he doesn't know English that well, so it was like a challenge, but it was like a fun challenge. And I don't know, I think of like there's different beats along my career where, like, for example, wearing the mask in Dark Order. I never wore a mask before AEW, so I had to
yeah,
learn how to wrestle in a mask and breathe in a mask and get emotion out of fans when you can't show your face, which is the biggest thing, you know. And then working with them, now I had to learn to work with people who their first language isn't English. So it's
right.
it's like cool learning experiences almost. But I loved working with them a lot. I mean, we're still, you know, friends, and they're a good time, man. And like I said, and Roosh, he's been wrestling, you know, since he was like, I want to say he's like 13, 14. You know, like all those lucha guys, they start so
Mhm.
young. So he has another like just great mind for wrestling. And like I said, the main thing I got out of that was learning when to like really turn it up because that's
Yep.
what he does, you know.
Yeah, he's another guy that's like knocks your head off. Like
Yeah, yeah,
he's so intense. It's
yeah,
I like watching him wrestle a lot because
yeah,
he's just nonstop. He doesn't slow down.
yep,
He slows down, you know what I mean? He's
yeah,
just very intense.
yeah,
But that match with when you were bleeding and stuff with Moxley, did
yeah,
you to me it felt like that was like one of your coming out. Did
yeah,
that feel like that to you?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, I tell everyone this. My favorite person to wrestle in AEW is Moxley. We just
Yeah.
have we just have good chemistry, and it's intense. He's another one. When you're in the ring with him, you have to be intense. Because my first match ever on Dynamite was against Moxley, and I remember
Yep.
Brody said, he goes, "Hey, I know like he's a big star and you're brand new, but he said you have to fucking bring it, you know." And I did, and so every time when I'm in there, especially with him, I always think about that. And he's another one where he brings out that intensity in you, you know. But yeah, I loved all the stuff I did with LFI. I love all my encounters with Moxley. Um, yeah, I just always think about there's just so many things I've done in AEW where I never thought I would really have to learn how to do in wrestling. Is like I never thought I'd wear a mask in wrestling or have to, you know, kind of learn those keywords of Spanish. And it made me wish I would have paid attention to school a little more, you know, in those
Right.
moments. But you know, you learn along the way, and it was I had an absolute blast working with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, while we're talking about Moxley, that suplex onto
Insane,
the nail.
insane, dude.
I watched wrestling since I was probably 4 years old, maybe,
Yeah,
and I've never seen
no,
anything like that.
dude. Yeah,
It was like
Mox is
stuck to
crazy.
his back.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that was, and then he was there the next week. Like,
yeah, yeah,
okay, dude, you don't want to take any time off?
yeah. That's him, dude. He's awesome. He's like I said, he's my favorite person to wrestle in AEW, and he's just himself, you know, and I
Yep.
respect that.
Yeah, I would assume you learn a lot of the psychology from him too. His
Yeah,
psychology is
yeah,
bar none one of the best.
yeah, for sure.
Like this whole Death Rider thing that he's doing is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, so then you transition now into the frat house. How did that
yeah.
come about?
That came about because then you know I left LFI, and then it's like, okay, well I need something to do. And then QT pitched the idea of putting me and Griff together because Cole at this point was still out with injury. So like, okay,
Oh,
cool. And
okay.
I've known Griff for years because we both did a lot of indies together, like on the southeast and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And then it kind of came out with like, well, you three are all like kind of the like, all just like good looking, like you're into the same stuff, like whatever. So then we added Jack Jameson, and
Mhm.
it's kind of like it is kind of organically like the frat house type thing. And that's kind of who this is definitely the most me in anything I've done in wrestling, which
Yeah.
is awesome. So it's like this is the easiest thing I've done because it's like
Yep.
it's just me. And like when you get those natural elements of your real life and put them into wrestling, it's just so much easier, which I love because, and don't get me wrong, I loved working with Dark Order, loved working with LFI, but in those groups I was always kind of just the heater,
Yeah.
um, which is awesome. But I want to show my personality and do stuff.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like I don't know, we're having a blast doing it. And all these guys are also they're very hungry. So we have like a group chat and we're always bouncing ideas off each other. Like, hey, we should film this. We should do this. We should do this. And like I said, it's very. I've been fortunate enough to every faction or group I've been in, I've gotten along with not just gotten along, but have become really good friends with everyone in the group. So it makes it so much easier to work with. I read these horror stories of like these guys back in the day is like, oh, I was teaming with so and so, and we were together for so long, but like backstage we didn't get along. Like that's got to be hard. So
Yeah.
it's easy when you have that real life chemistry with someone, and now you portray it, through wrestling. But the frat
Yeah.
house stuff, I love. It's something new. It's something fresh. Um, and it's just like kind of you know within limits, go out there and be yourself, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, it clicks too. I mean, you were just on Dynamite not too long,
Yeah,
or
yeah. Collision.
Collision not
Yep.
too long ago, and you guys look great together. It
Yeah.
looks like it should be the connection.
Right. Which yes. Yeah, so we're all having fun. We're very excited about it, and we'll see where it goes.
Griff Garrison, what a head of hair.
Yeah. So that's the
Yeah.
other funny thing. If you remember those early BTEs, the whole "Who the fuck is Griff Garrison?" So
Yeah.
now it kind of came full circle. So I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
funny, this is cool because we did an indie show a few months ago. All of us did, and in a TCW in Georgia, and
Mhm.
people in the front row kept yelling, "Who the fuck is Griff Garrison?" And I'm like, this is funny, like it came around full circle.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's the cool thing about AEW. You're still able to do the indies and
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool because
We
you
we
can
get a
keep
we get a
your
lot of leeway and kind of like creative freedom and stuff, which I
mm,
love. Um, and dude, the indies are just like that's where you can go do stuff and see like what works, what doesn't work.
yeah,
It's just like you know, it's just like a good rep, especially with our group. None of us have teamed together before, so it's really helpful for us to like
yeah,
learn how each one of us works in the ring and like are like how to kind of navigate because working with these guys is so much different than working with LFI, so much different than working with Dark
yeah.
Order. So it's just like yeah, I like that we're able to kind of go out and do our own thing.
Yeah, it's great because not everybody's Mox, not everybody's Cope, so you're getting the reps in and all that
Right,
stuff.
right.
So it's cool that Tony allows you to do that, and
Yeah.
he seems like you said, he seems very open to
Oh yeah.
hear your ideas.
Very, very, very. And he's so hands-on with everything, man. And I don't think people realize how hard that guy works. It's not
Mm,
like he's not just like the owner of the company and just like he's never missed a show. Any
yeah,
show. Like he literally will sit there all night. He'll watch everything. He's there every Dynamite, every Collision. He was there every Rampage. He would watch all the darks, watch all Ring of Honor. Like that dude loves wrestling. Like loves it more than anyone I've ever known.
yeah. I love seeing him backstage too when he's like, "Let's fucking go."
Yeah, man, he's
He's like
passionate
so
about it,
into it.
which is great because now it makes all of us like, yo, that's our boss. Like that's
Yeah.
like, so it brings out that passion in you. Like it's almost like I want to make him proud. Like.
Yeah, it's like one of the fans or one of the boys
Yeah,
running the company basically.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I love
that's
it.
really cool. So, let me ask you, do you speaking of like AEW and WWE and all that stuff, I I know a lot of fans and stuff are like, "Oh, just WWE or just AEW." You don't do you subscribe to that? Because I'm everything.
If I was a fan, I would watch every, like if I was like
Yeah,
a kid, and stuff like, you think about like when it was WCW versus WWE, like I would have watched everything. Like when I was a kid, I
yeah,
couldn't get enough wrestling. You know what I mean?
right.
And it's just, yeah, I never get when people are so pro one or con the other. Like, so no, I if you like wrestling, man, you like wrestling.
Yep. I think it was Bully Ray or Bubba Ray, whatever he's called now, was saying that like his argument towards it was, what kind of music do you like? I bet you like rock, rap, whatever.
Yeah,
Like everybody likes tons of music. Why can't
yeah,
you like all the
right,
wrestling?
right.
Yeah. So I'm glad you said that because I interviewed this woman wrestler in Canada, Alexia Nicole, and she
Hmm.
said the same thing. She was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, I can't stand when they're like, oh, just AEW, just WWE."
right.
And it's
It's like, yeah,
actually like,
can't you just enjoy wrestling? Like,
yeah, especially now, it's like the best time to be a fan.
dude, there's stuff
Yeah.
on every night. You could literally watch
Yeah.
wrestling every day of the week. Like if I was like, when I was like a kid and when was really like, I mean, I would watch every. That's all I would do is just watch wrestling all day, and that's like, I wish I could watch live wrestling every day.
Yeah. So with you being in the business, do you stray away from wrestling when you're on your off time?
No, you kind of live and
No.
breathe it, man. You just
Yeah.
do. It's just like it's funny you say that. Even at the like when I go to the gym, I'll literally just listen to like promo packages from like way back in the day, and like like the My Way, like Stone Cold versus The Rock type thing.
Wow,
So
so good.
it's just, dude, yeah, it's like you just have to kind of live and breathe it.
Yeah. Okay, so you still watch it and all that
You
stuff.
know?
That's cool. Yeah, what outside of wrestling, what do you get into?
Oh man, I've been really into you talking about TV?
Hmm.
I've been really into White Lotus.
I haven't started it yet. Is it
Uh
good?
it's good. I highly
Yeah.
recommend it. So I started watching this most recent season because it's like none of the seasons are connected. So you don't have to watch like season one to get two or to get three. So you can
Yep.
just start right on three. But I loved it so much. But it's three is current right now, so they drop a new episode every Sunday, and
Oh,
then
okay.
so now I'm waiting for Sunday to come around all the time.
Yeah.
So then I went back and I watched season one and two, and man, it's awesome. And it's like the producer, he doesn't leave like nothing is a coincidence. So it's like you really have to pay attention, and it's like
Yeah.
these it's like little Easter eggs along the way, and it's
Yeah.
very very good. And I'm not like a TV guy like that where I will really follow a show like that. So this is the first show in a long time that really has got me like hooked and excited. Outside of that, like rerun stuff, The Office is my favorite show of all time.
Yeah.
I think it's the
I love The Office.
greatest piece of TV ever created.
Yep.
I think Michael Scott's the greatest character ever.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, currently White Lotus is that's my thing, man.
Yeah, I've watched the first two seasons. I love the season with Aubrey Plaza.
Yes.
What
So
was that? The
I
second season?
that's the second one. I agree.
Yeah.
I think season two, even season three is not done yet, but even right now, season two I still think is the best one. Season two is good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. It's cool that none of it connects because you can just hop into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And I'm this you mentioned it dropping every Sunday. So there's a new documentary series about the Celtics on
Oh, I
Max.
saw that. I saw that.
Yeah. It drops every Monday. So I'm like,
Okay.
come on Monday.
Yeah, yeah. Hell yeah. And then
Uh,
speaking of documentaries, there's another really good one on Max that I was watching. This actually happened in Massachusetts, that Karen Reed thing. The
Yeah,
Karen
yeah.
Reed. So that was really good, and I just finished that, but it was like, yeah, it was dropping it every Sunday, and that's super recent where they like reopened that trial. I want to say, or they're going to April 1st, so it's like you don't even get
Yeah.
like a conclusion to it. But that was also super interesting to watch. I'm also a huge, really big like documentary like crime buff.
Fine. Yeah. Yeah, I was big like crime. Like I used to read the Hardy Boys and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
Those
yeah, yeah.
crime books. Yeah.
Yep.
So, what would your favorite match you've ever had be? Is it that tornado
The
tag?
Yeah, that's my favorite one because I did feel it as like a coming out match, like really showed what I could
Mhm.
do. But I still think the most meaningful match I'll ever have, which will probably never be touched, was the Brodie tribute match when it was
So
me,
good.
Cody, and Darby against Brian Cage. Who else in there? Will Hobbs. Oh, Will Hobbs kid, yeah, Brian Cage. Oh, it was me, Cody, and Orange Cassidy was our team, and then it was Cage, is Ricky Starks. This one they were doing like the Team Taz thing.
Yeah,
But that was by far I mean, that whole show, that whole episode, I think was just like the most well done tribute show ever.
it was perfection.
It was so, so good. And like to be
Yeah.
a part of that was like, I was, I remember Cody called me and was like, hey, we're going to have you like in the main event of that. And I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, this is awesome.
That's so cool. Yeah, I remember Eddie Guerrero's tribute
Yeah, oh,
show
yeah,
on
yeah,
WWE, and that was my bar. They
yeah,
exceeded
yeah,
that with the Brewer. That show was perfect. It
yeah,
was so because they didn't care about the heel and face thing.
no,
They just did a total
yeah,
tribute to him. It was
yeah.
great. And at the end with Brody yeah, it
Hmm.
was so good. What would your favorite match, not yours, but outside of yours, be uh,
Um,
of all time?
Hogan Rock Mania 18. I think
A
that's what
lot of people
really
say that.
I think that's what really got me hooked on wrestling, and it wasn't because the match was awesome, it was just the environment
Yep,
and, in that Toronto Sky Dome, and before the match even started, and they're just, like, facing off, and the crowd was
yep.
just going absolutely fucking wild. I remember watching as a kid, and I was just like, "Wow, this is so crazy."
And they just had to look side to side,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so good.
like yeah, like
Yeah,
I
I
couldn't imagine being like in the arena for that. Like you would just get like
oh
goosebumps with all that energy.
yeah, and then they had to switch too. It was
Yep.
supposed to be Rock the
Yeah.
babyface, Hogan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. How they read the crowd and everything is
Hmm.
cool. My I always say mine would be two. Would be Brett versus Austin, that double switch.
Yep. Yep.
When Austin turned face and Brett turned heel, and
Yeah.
then the TLC two with Hardy's, Edge
Oh
and
yeah.
Christian, and Dudley's. So
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
crazy, but really good.
Yeah.
All right, so what would your dream match be?
Dream match. Uh, I don't know if I have like a dream opponent. But I guess my dream goal would be TNT Championship. And that's
Oh, okay.
just simply because like that's so like that was Brody's title.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
and
synonymous with him.
I've said that from the beginning, and I say that in every interview podcast that that's always my number one goal is a TNT championship.
It's kind of cool that everybody says that too. It's
Yeah,
not just his people. They're
yeah,
like, no, the true greatest TNT champion is
yeah,
Brody.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Um, okay, what you said your favorite TV show, what would your favorite movie be?
Um, Probably Dumb and Dumber. Uh,
Nice.
I love like that '90s like what do they call it like slapstick comedy.
Yep.
I love Tommy Boy, so it's pretty kind of neck and
Yep.
neck. Um, and then like non-comedy movies, I love Pain and Gain with
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg Rock. It's kind of like an in your face, like action packed, whatever.
Yep.
And I love Southpaw a lot too, with Jake
That's a
Gyllenhaal, the
really
boxing
good
movie.
movie.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah.
But I say, yeah, all time. I always say Dumb and Dumber, just because I just feel like that really, that really. I watched that so many times when I was growing up, man.
Yep. I think the next edition of that is like old not old school, Step Brothers
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
those type of movies. So funny.
That whole era of like Step Brothers, Hangover, all that. It was like that was like the last of like real good comedy movies. I feel it was like that era because now it's
Yeah, you
like
don't really get
you
them
don't
now.
get like really good comedy movies anymore.
Yeah. We'll see how Happy Gilmore 2 is though.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty good, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
MJF is in it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And I know a Kelsey brother. I forget which one, but
Oh, okay.
he's in it. Yeah. So what would like your favorite type of music or band or
Favorite
that type of
music
thing?
is definitely country, which is probably
Okay.
just how I grew up. But
Yeah.
my favorite artist is Eminem by far. Not even a
Oh, I love it,
close,
man.
not even a close second. And that's another. When you're from Michigan, Eminem is like he's top dog. You know, he's
Yeah.
like just Michigan legend. So yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say Eminem's my favorite artist, but favorite genre like all around country.
Is Kid Rock in that?
Oh yeah,
Because
for
he's
sure,
from okay.
for sure.
I love Kid Rock too.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any music from him in a while, but yeah, what would your favorite food be? Like if you had a
Ooh,
cheat
ooh.
meal?
Oh, cheat meal, pizza for sure. But
Pizza.
like normal food, like steak's my all-time favorite.
Yep.
Go to any restaurant, if they have steak on the menu, I'm getting steak. Doesn't I don't care where
Oh,
I'm. They can be a fancy steakhouse. It could be Applebee's. I'm getting steak.
yeah. That's how we grew up. My family's Scottish. It's Scottish and Italian, so my papa was always steak and potato.
Yeah, yeah.
That's your staple food. All right. What would your favorite animal be?
Dog, yellow lab.
Dog.
That's what I have.
Nice. What's his name?
Champ.
Champ. Nice. Yeah, we have a Aussie doodle named Maggie.
Okay,
Yeah, cute dog. All right. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. Are there any socials or plugs that you have?
I like that. That was like a little speed round at the end.
Yeah, lightning round. I forgot
Yeah,
to say lightning
yeah,
round.
yeah. That's how most podcasts end is lightning round. That's always my
Yeah.
favorite part. Is just like um yeah Instagram and Twitter both Pres10Vance Pres10Vance.
Mhm. All right. And you are nice enough to donate some of your
Yep.
attire. You want to explain that?
Yep. So this is for ALS Foundation, correct?
Yep.
Yep. So I have one of the tights I wore with Dark Order. It's the ones where like one pant leg is white, one's purple, and it has tens all over it. That, and then I have my maroon LFI pants with all the patches,
Hmm.
LFI patches separately from the pants. And then I think I have a pair of my white boots that I wore when I was 10, or black ones. One of them I think I still have that I will donate. And because
Cool.
the medical charities I think it's like the greatest thing ever. So I will happily donate. I think that's awesome that you're doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. For those of you that don't know, that's sweetsadie.org, Sadie, Sadie, and that's in honor of my sister that passed away in 2020. And she had muscular dystrophy and passed away from that. And then I don't know how many people we've had pass away from ALS, but we've had quite a few. So we like to try to help out with that. But we'll have that auction on April 12th. So thank you so
Awesome.
much for helping out with that.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it. And thanks for coming on. I
Yeah,
appreciate
dude.
it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good one.